This is our Borough Council regular meeting for November 2024. We'll start with our agenda with our call to order. Roll
President
call.
Ferguson,
Here.
Vice President Gerard,
Here.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
Councilmember Fagan,
Here.
Councilmember Cresser, here, Mayor Gerard,
Here.
Junior Councilperson Nisbet, Borough Manager Snyder, here, Borough Solicitor Harper.
Here.
All right. Can we stand and do our pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if I can ask Vice President Gerard to do our invocation.
Lord, help us in this time to make some auspicious decisions to help our citizens here in the borough and to make sure that we have the wisdom to continue to do our jobs well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. All right, we'll start with our agenda with item 1, approval of the meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for the November 2024 regular meeting?
Make motion.
I got a motion from Councilman Burns, second from Councilman Cresser. Any questions, changes, or amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Item 2, approval of the meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the October 2nd, 2024 workshop meeting and the October 16th, 2024 regular meeting?
So moved.
I get a motion from Councilman Gerard, a second from Councilwoman Cresser. Any questions, changes, or amendments? If there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. All right, item 3, public input. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address council, we please ask you to rise, step over to the podium, make sure the button is turned on with the green light, and state your name and address and why you're addressing council. So Councilman Burns just asked the question, if someone wants to talk about the presentation, yeah, there'll be time if there's audience input for that, if you want to wait to bring up any questions in. So don't feel like you have to speak now. Good catch, thank you. All right, if there's no input from the public, we'll go to item 4, announcements.
Next council meeting is December 4th workshop, December 18th regular meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers. The planning commission is scheduled to meet on Monday, December 16th at 6 p.m. in council chambers. PEROC is scheduled to meet Wednesday, December 18th at 8 a.m. in council chambers. The Hatfield Borough offices will be closed on Thursday and Friday, November 28th and 29th in observance of the Thanksgiving Day holiday. And leaf bag collection starts Monday, October 28th and will continue every Monday through December 2nd.
Steve, we've been getting a lot of, oh, Steve's not here, so never mind. I was gonna ask Steve if we've been getting a lot of pickups for that.
Yes, he did say that they have been out getting a lot of leaf bags.
All right, good.
Good, recycling money for us.
There you go. All right, any question on the announcements? If not, we'll go to item 5, the 23 North Main Street Hatfield Walk Land Development Presentation, and I will turn this over to Mr. Goldthorpe, sorry.
All right, good evening, everyone. Ben Goldthorpe here on behalf of Pennington Property Group. Along with me this evening is Rob Cunningham, our civil engineer, and Pete Spizak, our traffic engineer for the project. A little history for you. I recently got involved in the project a couple months back via an assignment from Mr. Amoroso, who had the project under contract. He had taken it through a variance through your zoning hearing board. The project is located at 23 North Main Street within the borough, with roughly an 1.5 acre parcel in your CC zoning district. That variance I mentioned was to allow the townhomes we're proposing using the R4 standards of your zoning code. The project in general, like I said, is 8 townhomes. It's 1 less unit than the zoning hearing board decision contemplated. That contemplated 9 units. They are 22-foot wide townhomes with a 2-car garage, parking in front of each garage, and then main access coming in off of Main Street. In addition to the homes, we also have typical things we see in a subdivision and land development. We have stormwater management to manage the additional impervious coverage that we'll be providing. We have landscape buffering. In some cases, we're substituting landscaping for privacy fence. So as you pull in our new entrance on the right-hand side, we're fairly close to some neighbors, so rather than planting trees, we've proposed a 6-foot high privacy fence. We've done the same on the left side of our entrance near Mr. Renner's property. We have a 6-foot privacy fence kind of circling his property. The stream is up in the upper left-hand corner, and then the Borough Park is kind of continue on an angle catty corner. In addition to all of those items, we also have site lighting. It was subject of discussion at the planning commission meeting earlier this week. We proposed 2 lights, and after discussion, it sounds like we'll be adding the additional 2, so we'll have a total of 4 lights. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Again, we have both our civil engineer here and our traffic consultant. If there's specific questions about traffic egress and such, and the trips that are generated, we can answer those questions, or I can answer any questions the council has.
Well, real quick, Chad, how did the width of these compare to Bennett's Court? When we say the width of the townhomes is what, 22 feet wide, you said?
They're 22 feet wide by 40 feet deep.
Yeah, I think Bennett's Court has 1-car garages, if I recall correctly, and these are 2-car garages. So these are probably roughly the same in width, but they will have the additional parking availability in the garage and in the driveway itself.
Okay, so 1 in the garage and 1 in the driveway, but
Oh, this has 2 in the driveway.
2 in the driveway.
And
Oh.
12 over 4 feet.
That's correct.
Okay.
12.
I was asking because I was trying to get a comparison because I've walked out by Bennett's Court and I know what that size is. So I was trying to understand what does 22 feet wide mean? So that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, it'll be similar.
Okay.
So this evening, we're not looking for any formal action by the council. As far as the process, we'll go back to the planning commission at their December meeting and hope to be back to you at your January meeting, potentially for some decision. So tonight really just informational and any questions that council or the public has.
I have several questions. I don't know who should go first. Go ahead, man. So yeah, go ahead, man. I'm listening. Yeah.
Doesn't council have to make a decision as to whether or not the open space should be offered? It's offered for dedication on the plans. But we understood that the developer had another idea or something like that. Do you want to talk about that?
I can, initially, again, I wasn't part of the zoning hearing board decision, but in the zoning hearing board decision, it contemplated some open space to be deed restricted. And so initially, we had thought that it made sense for the homeowners associations to own and maintain that open space. But in conversations with the planning commission and the professional staff, it was determined that a deeded lot that the borough would take in fee civil ownership might make more sense.
Yeah, I don't think council's decided on that. So that's why I brought it up, okay? And I was wondering whether the plans that I've seen call for the HOA to take care of that. Okay, and so if Borough Council did not accept dedication fee simple of the open space, but instead accepted a deed restriction on the open space, would you be able to also have an access easement for pedestrians or whatever to come down your driveway and walk over there and actually use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that initially we had offered was a blanket easement for that purpose, right? For a future trail connection. That way, we don't necessarily guess where that access easement would make sense today. We'd rather just say, hey, you have a blanket easement so that you can come in and do something that you'd like differently in the future.
Right, but getting to it is an issue because I think you're not going to dedicate the roads. Am I right about that?
Correct. But again, we would offer a blanket easement to allow that continual access.
Okay, so people could walk down your private road to the open space even if it weren't owned by the borough. So the borough has to make a decision as to whether or not they want it. Okay, but if they don't want it, in fee simple, you have it restricted by a deed that would also allow access easement. That's,
So there's two, right? The dedication or the deed of restriction. Is that correct?
right,
Okay,
yeah, that's two options for
okay,
you. I would say dedication would mean fee simple ownership, you own it the same as you own this piece of property.
right, right.
Okay.
Yeah. And if it's a dedication, then, obviously, people would have the right of access. Would we then be responsible for any trails or anything on that? Is putting a trail on there part of option 2, which is the deed of restriction? Or is that something that we'd have to do no matter which option we have?
Correct, you have to do no matter, what direction in terms of trail, we're not proposing a trail.
Okay,
And as far as maybe a location that a trail would make sense, there's an existing, I'll say bridge or culvert or pipe crossing just to the north of our property on someone else's property. It would probably, just again, from my layman's perspective, it would probably make sense if the borough was able to get that access easement from the neighbor rather than build a new, crossing over the stream.
okay.
But what about the use of the property by your homeowner? Are you contemplating putting a little bridge over? It looks like there's a stream that runs right
Okay.
smack through the middle.
We're not proposing any crossing of that stream.
How wide is the stream?
20 feet ish.
Yeah, around 20 feet.
20 feet wide or 20 feet long?
20 feet wide.
It's kind of a.
Okay.
It's kind of a.
So
It would be a
need a
decent sized bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't be a small one. And I would agree, if there is a bridge on the Walker property that I believe the borough has access to for maintenance purposes, if, in my opinion, it would make sense to allow the public to utilize that existing bridge, why build a second bridge? It's something more that the borough would have to maintain over time. If that's something that can be worked out in the future
with that owner,
with the Walker owner.
with the Walker. Now, can you show, or can somebody show where the borough's park is, just so we're all clear on that, because the bridge is not on the park.
Yeah, we got one here.
Yeah.
So this line right here, if you can see that, that's the property line. So the borough owns this side. Walker owns this side.
Yeah.
The bridge is right here, as it makes sense. So if you cannot, obtain an easement from Mr. Walker to come up the sidewalk, cross the driveway, trail that you would want built at some point in time. On this side of the creek, I got reprimanded for saying creek instead of crick. This side of the creek, across the existing bridge, if you cannot gain access through an easement from the Walker property, then a bridge would have to be built on this side to access the borough's property here.
If you wanted to make a connection to our park,
Yeah.
you need a bridge or an easement.
Correct.
And we'd also get the easement down their driveway and to,
Yeah, so it would be an public access easement to walk along the new sidewalk and across the asphalt paved area where the vehicles would access these units. And then at some point in the future, you would also want to retain rights to build a walkway of some sort, most likely a macadam path within the property that will still be made or owned by the HOA. Barely see it here, but here's the proposed property line. So everything to the top and left of this line here would be owned by the borough. Everything to the right here would be owned by the HOA. So to get from this paved driveway to the borough-owned property, you would need some sort of path there as well. That makes sense.
Mhm.
I explain that a bit.
You did?
I have a question about the egress and ingress to the property there. I know there was a traffic study done. And, I can't see how you're going to be able to make people make left, coming out of there, going right when they want to make a left turn on Main Street. I know there's a cement island there, sort of directing them to make a right turn instead of going left. But people being people are gonna take the shortcut, and they're gonna still go around that and gonna try and make a left-hand turn. My concern is, we got a left-hand turn lane not too far from there, the intersection of Main and Broad. And especially at rush hour, coming out of there, it's gonna be a nightmare. Now, the idea would be for them to go down the street to Queen Avenue there, around through and out, but they're not gonna do that. So, have you done anything to mitigate them from making that left turn there? I don't know if it's something in the ground or signage or whatever, so that they're not going to be doing that.
So the answer is no. We did look at, again, say, for 8 townhomes, it is a minimal number of trips that are generated. And we have our traffic engineer probably speak more eloquently about it than I can. But my understanding is that they do take that into account when they decide whether an access should be full access or limited in some fashion, whether it should be no left out, right in, right out, whatever those restrictions might be. But my understanding is because of the limited number of trips, none of those things will warrant it.
So if we can, I mean, it's probably a good time if Pete can talk through that a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, the traffic study indicated additional painting on the road. It indicated a right turn out of the property, right?
Full access, meaning
Full access.
would be allowed.
Oh, so you could go either left or right. Okay,
Correct.
okay. For some reason I thought right into that. So, and then pulling into that, was that either left turn into it or right turn into it, or did that limit
No, so you full access.
full access both ways in and out? Okay,
Right.
okay.
Because, being that it's 8 townhomes, we have to generate traffic based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which takes into account all these studies that were done, trip generation studies that were done across the country for hundreds of sites.
Okay.
So that's what we have to utilize. And based on that, based on those results, 8 townhomes would generate 4 AM peak hour trips and 5 PM peak hour trips.
Okay.
Daily, we're looking at 58 total trips a day. So when you take that low volume into account, you only have, in the peak hours, you only have like 2 left turns in an hour. So 1 every half hour.
Mhm.
The level of service at that driveway location is a level of service B. Now, I understand that you're gonna, the traffic on Main Street does back up, from the signal. Now, what happens though is when the signal turns green and all those cars go through, then you're gonna have some gaps to be able to get someone out to make a left-hand turn. And we did do a gap study at the recommendation of your traffic engineer. And based on that gap study, we determined that in the AM peak hour, there's 375 available gaps to be able to make a left-hand turn. And we have two trips making that left. So it's a significant number of more gaps to allow that left now.
And when you say, oh, yeah. And when you say low number of trips, can you kind of give a scale? What's considered low, what's considered medium, what's considered high, just to have some relative perspective?
So,
If that makes
like I
sense.
said, the site generates 58 total daily trips.
Mhm.
A minimum use driveway for PennDOT standard is 50 trips. A low volume driveway is under 750 trips. A medium volume driveway is under 1,500 trips, and a high volume driveway is under over 3,000 trips.
Okay,
So you're talking about a driveway that's almost a minimum, that almost meets the minimum. use
almost, yeah.
criteria.
So it's very, very limited. Yeah,
Correct.
and that's kind of the scale I was trying to understand. So, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. So the question I was gonna ask about, how was that gap study done? Did you just use the report type thing, or did somebody go there and count?
So we now, the way we do the gap studies is we record the intersection where the driveway is gonna be. We actually put a video camera up, record it. And then sometimes we send it to another company, sometimes we actually just have someone sit there and watch it. And in this case, we had someone sit there and watch it, and basically anytime there's a 7-second gap, that's enough time for a left turn to get out of the driveway. So sometimes you may have more than 7 seconds, sometimes there may be a 30-second gap. So in that case, 3 or 4 cars could get out in that 30 seconds. So what we do is we add up all the gaps and then determine how many gaps there are to, for vehicles to get out
When was that study done?
in October this year.
On what day?
It was October 8th.
No, I mean, what day of the week?
It's a weekday, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because you got peak hours into that.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And school was in session.
Because these numbers about this 4 new trips and 5 new trips in the PM, that thing. You know, we had a little discussion about that at the meeting yesterday, Tuesday, thank you, whatever. it was. Yeah, I forget, they're all running together. And, the issue really isn't that, it's what it's doing to the other traffic out there. And you go out there now and it's a mess. Cause you're right, it backs up, it backs up, it backs up. I mean, when I came here for the planning commission meeting, and that was 5:30, that I left my house, cause I live up there. And I came down and the traffic was backed up from the light all the way to Casey's. Going in. So all that traffic had to get through. And that's where the problem is, because Main and Broad is the most traveled streets in this borough. That's, I mean, you talk to these people here, they all live there. They have trouble getting out of their driveways every single time. You know, so it's affecting them. In some cases, it's affecting their health because they're worried about it. You know, as we get older, this kind of stuff is an issue, you know.
And can I ask a
So-
question? So we know we've had traffic issues on Cowpath or on Main forever and a day. Is what you're experiencing related to that traffic problem regardless of whatever this is? Because I know we talked that they were still supposed to finish not the calming study, but the traffic sequencing, the light sequencing to get traffic to flow better. And I assume they're still in the process of working on that.
Yeah, they have, so Anton has made some adjustments with PennDOT at the traffic signal at Vine and Main. And if we have any concerns, he can go in and tweak it along with like PennDOT approval. So we're kind of sure it's always open as long as it meets certain requirements. He did make that change. I think you noticed a difference. We kind of talked about that a little bit. But I think it's pretty much complete unless we start to see backups, then he can change the tripping or
And we
I think it's, yeah, at the end of the day, there's more people on the road.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. To answer your question, yes, it's current conditions. And this is gonna exasperate those current conditions. And that's what the folks that live there are afraid of. You know, right now you go out there and Jamie's right. I know Rich had talked to last year about retiming the light at Vine, because it was backing up through Giant and all the way out. And they got it. I mean, it helped, but it still backs up and it backs up to that development there still, you know, so it's an ongoing issue. And as Jamie said, traffic's not gonna get less, you know? I looked at that study that, in that report from the Montgomery County Planning Commission that we're gonna go over tomorrow. And I looked at that in there about the growth rates for this area. And it's things like the development, you know, this area was growing like crazy. And the surrounding area around us is the township. So the borough doesn't have a lot of places to put new growth. I get that. The township has tons of places. Look at the development across from Lowe's. Look at the one they put up the other end of Cowpath Road. You know, these are big homes that they're putting up and huge developments. And that traffic is going right through our town because Main and Broad is the main thoroughfare through here. So,
Plus you also have all the trucks that go through there too.
right?
Well, the 309 interceptor should help, but I guess part of the reason I'm asking the question is I don't want to,
I said, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, you know, I'd hate to penalize this for a problem that's already there. So is there a way that we can think, and Pete, I don't know if you can help with this, to help us distinguish the problem that we already have versus what this would mean? Because based on the numbers, it sounds like the impact is very small. And the impact may be actually smaller than the perception. And I'm speculating, I don't know.
The problem is gonna be in the impact is those people sitting right
No,
there.
I got it. I
You
got
know,
it.
and the
So,
fact that they can't get out, you know, now, currently,
mhm.
and it's just gonna make it worse, because with those turns in and out of there, and if it's wide open, you can make a left, you can make a right, going in and out. That's gonna make the problem with the traffic on the road even worse. Because you're gonna be dumping more cars out there.
Well, but not and again, and if I'm stating something incorrect, help me understand. According to what Pete's saying from the traffic study, it's not going to, because of the timing.
So.
It doesn't mean there won't be, correct me if
To
I'm,
give you perspective.
yeah.
We have to analyze these intersections, existing conditions, base conditions, which is future conditions without the development. We have to add a growth rate to the traffic that PennDOT provides us every year. They give us a new growth rate, which is for Montgomery County, 0.21% per year right now. So we add 0.21% per year onto the traffic. So, we have to add that. We run an analysis with that. Based on the analysis in the AMP, so we have to, the first thing we do is we give the intersection a level service grade. That level service grade is A being the best, F being worse, just like school. So currently today, Main and Broad, the overall intersection level service is a level service of C with a 25.8 second delay in the AMP. In the base year, without our development, with just the traffic growth that PennDOT makes us do, or the township, whatever. The overall level service is level service C of 26 seconds delay. So it's about a 0.2 second increase in delay at the intersection. With the site, it's still a level service C and it's a 26.1 second delay. So 0.1 second difference between the no build condition to the build condition. That's the AMP. The PMP is very similar. The PMP is a C in existing conditions of a 25.5 second delay. In future conditions without development, we're C 25.7 seconds delay. And with the site, it's a C 25.7 seconds delay. So the PMP, it doesn't even change the overall operations of the intersection.
So these numbers were based off of like an average for the state, right? State of Pennsylvania.
No, I mean, so the way we analyze the intersection, so we use software that analyzes the intersection, put all the volumes in, we put all the parameters in, lane widths, peak hour factors, all these different parameters that we were required to put into the analysis, gives us a delay, an overall delay for the intersection. So that overall delay is what we have to report. That's specific to this intersection. It's not a statewide thing. That's truly specific to this intersection.
And where are you getting those numbers? Were they actual counts?
Yes.
And it was
First
the
thing we do is we count the intersection, then we add the growth, then we add the site, and we figure out what the impact is of the site.
And that was a report that we got, right?
That is the report.
That count was done in 2022 during the pandemic.
No, the pandemic was, so
When we were coming out of the pandemic and people were still working from
I
home.
have the answer for you on that. So on Main Street, like I said, we did a gap study in October of this year.
Yes.
And we had a camera out there. So we went back and we actually counted the through traffic on Main Street from that count during the peak hours. And based on the actual count, just to give you a background here, in 2022, Main Street in the AM peak hour had 775 vehicles on. In the PM peak hour, it had 948 vehicles, peak hours. The 24 counts. In the AM, we have 630 versus 775 in 2022. So it's actually lower today than it was in 22.
And you know why that is?
Why is that?
The roads closed out coming into town. It's down only one way. There's people coming this direction or detoured around the town.
Oh, well,
Because
that would solve, I mean.
Yeah,
normally the-
and it's been like that for how long?
It's not
6 months?
necessarily that much different.
6 months about the detour out there?
The Broad Street was,
No, the one at Cowpath out of Township Line.
At the township.
oh, the Township Line one, has been significant, yes, well over 6 months,
Yeah,
but,
well over 6 months.
not ours didn't even happen as of October.
So the traffic coming into town on the Cowpath, which is that road going to that development. It's only one way down there. You can go out, but you can't come back in. You have to detour around.
So, I mean,
I think it's opened up. I think they opened it up.
Just recently.
They did, like
Did it?
last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then, you know, there was another study that was done for this site by another firm. And they had done counts, similar counts. And their counts were also done in 2022.
Right.
And, I mean, both the 2022. counts
Well,
are
no,
very
yeah, the similar to, I mean, when you look at the Montgomery County Planning Commission report, this area here was one of the, at least this part of the state was one of the fastest growing parts of the state population wise. So it's like, okay, you know, well, we could talk at the planning commission. Let's let these folks have their say.
So I still have some additional questions too. So, apologies, I don't know if it'd be so much traffic, so, it's just kind of in general. So we talked about the lights that are gonna be installed there. Is that something that the homeowners are picking up, or is that something that's a burden on the borough to pay the light? The electric cost for the lighting?
I assume that it would be the homeowners association if the borough wanted to pick up
Is it?
the tab. that
Okay.
would be fantastic.
They'll be privately owned.
It'd be privately owned, okay, that's what I wanted to check, okay. Yeah, not this year. Definitely not this year. When we think about the 6-foot privacy fence, so I'm assuming that that's aligning the property, going north to south on the screen, right?
That's correct.
On the right side.
On the right side. Is that enough to cover the height difference in the housing? Between the townhomes versus the housing, to where the residents would feel like they still had a measure of privacy?
It's a good question. I mean, in general, the houses are obviously much higher than 6 feet. The fences, we placed it closer to the curb, so we will have a roughly 6-7 foot grass strip between our fence and the neighbors that will own and maintain. So as far as privacy, I think it would stop folks from crossing paths, meaning that our residents cutting through to Broad Street. But I don't think visually that they're certainly going to see the townhomes we're gonna build, just likewise, the folks living in our townhomes would see their homes.
So everyone will be able to see into everyone's yards then, basically.
I wouldn't say you'd be able to see into the yard if you were at grade, so if you're driving in and you look to the right.
Right, no, but I'm saying anything at height, so I'm assuming that there's probably windows on the, yeah.
Absolutely, if you're,
Okay.
so it's the 2 end units, obviously the middle units, probably not an
Okay.
issue, but yeah, the 2 end units will have windows, and if they're on the 3rd floor and they're looking out, they would probably actually look above the neighbors houses aren't 3 stories high, so our folks would probably have a view further out.
All the way across, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
If I can add, there's a good amount of that property line that's already blocked by existing buildings that are 2 or 3 stories high. And
Okay.
they're literally a foot off the property line. So I'll say the site,
Okay,
you know, the sight lines are gonna be blocked by those existing garages, dwellings, whatever. it
sheds
is.
or whatever, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Is there a
In
way we
fact,
can,
that's one of the reasons, you know, we spent a significant amount of time looking at that. In fact, you know, it's your staff and I and Ben met out there to walk that area just to make sure stormwater's gonna go where we need it to go. It's not gonna back up on the other properties. To make sure that those homeowners, those property owners can actually access the back of their buildings, because if they put a fence on the property line,
Right. is it too?
you have a foot between the building and the property, and you can't maintain your building that way.
Mhm.
So although they don't have rights to access the property, at least realistically, they can get in there and do whatever. they do.
Mhm.
So that was I'll say a courtesy that Ben agreed to do, you know, he didn't have to. As far as site goes, those buildings are right on the property line.
Do we have a Google shot of that we can pull up? Just out of curiosity.
There's an aerial in the,
It was in the report, right?
on their plans in it.
Yeah, you zoom up, or scroll one.
You have access to the internet? Only big.
You have to dial up here.
No. Nobody puts their phone.
You got mail.
You would go the other way.
Hey, that's how we grew up with the internet, so, you know.
Like dial up.
Some of us are that old. Right? Yeah. That's good.
Still have nightmares about that sound. So I was in college at that time, so I'm in the dorms and you had to get online, right? And that's,
Mhm.
you had to deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I'm gonna go full screen, just one second.
And then if you want to take control, let me know.
You're doing a great job.
I think I'm a better hand.
Ben's like, no, Chad, you can take the heat. You can take the heat for me.
Can you zoom in?
Oh, yeah. Where do you want me to go?
To the right.
To the right, yeah.
So you can see this is the property line. And you can see obviously there's a skew to the aerial image, but I mean, the buildings right there are right on the property line, literally a foot or two off. Some are one, some are
That's
two.
core commercial zoning too, isn't it?
It is. CC.
CC, right?
So as far as the sight lines go from, the buildings that are gonna be here and here to say the houses or the backyards, you almost have a barrier already built that's 20, 30 feet high.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And you said based on fence placement that you're giving, how much space between those buildings and the edge of the fence?
6 to 7 feet.
6, 7 feet? Okay, okay. The one thing I think about with the two options of either the dedication or the deed of restriction is it's really hard to get a pathway to put through there, right? And I understand you'd kind of walk and then use the driveway between the two homes to access any path we'd put in there. But it just seems like it's awfully tight, right? You can make it work, but I don't know how efficient functionally it'd be. Am I seeing that correct, or?
There would be enough.
I get enough, I'm just saying, is it,
It's not too gentle.
okay,
Yeah, it's not.
just, no,
Yeah.
okay,
So pretty much everything you see in grass, this is, the grass, that would, for the most part, be owned by the community. Everything you see here is woods, and that's roughly where the line would be for the road.
right there, yeah,
And
yeah,
you can see the bridge here that I was talking about earlier.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if you cannot get onto the Walker property, if they deny an access easement, then you wouldn't be able to access that bridge, and you'd have to have another bridge down here.
yeah.
And again, there's the property line between the borough and Walker property.
Is that something we can get as part of any finalization of this project? To get Walker sign off on the easement, is that something we can do?
That's something the borough would have to do.
Yeah.
The Silver wouldn't be able to do that because
Good thing we're friends.
Okay. Part of the reason I ask is that if we're going to accept it, it'd be good to know that in advance. Otherwise,
Yeah.
now we have to budget for a bridge, right? So, yeah. And that could impact our decision.
Although you wouldn't have to do it right away.
No, but as long as we got the easement, then,
No, I need the bridge. You could wait it.
yeah, no, I know, but,
I could give a little, another example if the homeowners association were to own the open space, we could also give a perpetual, offer of dedication so that you don't have to decide today, you don't have to decide in 5 years. If in 10 years you decided you wanted to own that open space, that offer would still be good.
okay, I appreciate that.
but that would still be a subdivision at this point though.
Correct. It would be a subdivision today with a note on the plan that says the open space is offered to the borough for dedication. And until such time as the borough takes it, the homeowners association would maintain it.
With the access easement.
Yes.
Jamie, is there any issue with Public
Usually
Works?
If you offer it for dedication, it's good for like 21 years, and then if we don't take it within the 21 years, it reverts to the owner, who would be the HOA, the homeowners association.
Like all standard properties, right? If you
Yes.
infringe on property over a 21-year period, if
Like an adverse possession.
adverse possession, yeah, thank you, I couldn't remember the term, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's similar.
Okay.
Similar. We have this in the developers agreement or elsewise, but
You'd have time.
Okay,
From a maintenance standpoint, it's all woods, so it would be a liability more than maintenance would be the concern. concern.
Okay. That was my next question with Steve and the team. Would that be an issue? Okay.
The borough's protected in two ways. Borough has certain immunities from liability, okay? It has to be a dangerous condition of the real estate to make the borough liable. So if a tree falls down the borough didn't know about, it's not their fault and they could be sued, but they wouldn't be held liable. The second thing is the Recreation Use of Land and Water Act, which a lot of people don't know about, but it's a state statute that says that the owner of land used without charge for a recreational purpose is not liable if somebody gets hurt by mere negligence. Now, if you stick a wire up so that you trip people, that's different. But the Recreation Use of Land and Water Act and the Sovereign Immunity Act both apply to the borough. There was a recent case along the Schuylkill River on that very topic and applied to the county. And both laws apply to the county of Montgomery.
So one additional question I have, I think, and then I'll be quiet, which I'm sure everyone will be happy about. The wastewater, management of the wastewater, how is that being done again in this, with this proposal?
So it's a little unique just because of the topography. Ideally, we always like gravity sanitary sewer, so, house sits here, sewer goes through a gravity line to a main and road. In this situation, the main and the road out in Main Street is at this elevation, but our property sits down here. And so in order for us to get our sanitary sewer to the main, we need to put in two pumps, one pump for each building. And so the sewer would come out of each unit into a pump. And then once it hits that pump, it's in what's called a low pressure force main. And that would connect into the main in Main Street.
Okay, and that's responsibility of the HOA again as well?
Yes.
It has to go through sewage planning through the Department of Environmental Protection. I suspect there's a good chance they're gonna ask for there to be an operation and maintenance agreement between the property owner and the borough. DEP doesn't like privately owned pumps. It doesn't mean you'd be responsible for it. It means in DEP's eyes, if there's failure by the community to maintain it or, to safely administer the use of those pumps, ultimately the borough would have to. And the borough in that agreement would have to be protected so that you would have the funds available or would have you to
Or lien or
make
something
sure,
like that?
make sure it's not a burden.
Okay, okay,
Well, in that, it's similar to what we do with stormwater management.
Correct.
The stormwater basin is the responsibility of the HOA. But we do an agreement with them that says, if you don't keep it up, we'll fix it and then we'll lien you for that.
That's
So
correct.
this is a similar situation, I think, right, Jeff?
It is, yeah. And we're not at that point yet. They just submitted to the DEP and that could be a 6-month process. Unless, they can redesign their property in a way or speak to DEP and have them, not require that, but we're at the early stages of that right now.
okay. Is there thought to direct it in a different path so you don't need the pump?
No,
Or
the
is it-
challenge is where we're at. We have this, there is sewer across the creek, but it's the same process. We couldn't go, if we were going under the creek, again, we would need a pump to go under the creek to come back up.
Right.
Sewer is higher than the bottom.
Yeah, believe me, we looked at every possible way.
Okay,
We don't want pumps either. And what Steve said, it might be the only pumps in the whole borough.
yeah, I was gonna say. Okay.
Wood burners, was it the same similar? Wood burners or the train station has a pump to get from the bathroom underground, pump it up, pump it out.
Do that. Well, then,
Yeah.
it would be similar. They're called duplex grinder pumps. So there's 2 pumps that work. One will run one day or for an hour, whatever the series is, and they'll alternate. One can serve as a backup as well, but they alternate so that you don't have one just sitting idle for years on end and then it doesn't work when you need it to work. There's also both a visual and an audio alarm, so that if the pumps malfunction for some reason, you can both hear the alarm and see the lights flashing. So you shouldn't miss it. It's
Okay.
gonna be in a visible area that everybody can see. Again, it's gonna be the responsibility of the HOA to maintain that.
Right, if it doesn't work, the HOA is the one who's gonna suffer. I mean, the people.
They'll be the first ones to know, right?
So, I mean, I think they'll take care of it.
There's gonna be a phone call, yes.
And they have dialers as well, phone call, I failed to mention that, but somebody will be getting a phone call. if Something happens.
Okay.
Automatically from the unit.
Okay, that was my next question. Okay. And then, how about the stormwater management? When we think about, basins versus underground tanks and I don't remember what was the final conclusion on this?
So on this one,
Underground?
The hearing board decision was an underground.
Okay.
storage Facility. And that's,
That's the one with the lines?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
So they're representing pipes. What you'll see from the ground surface is grass.
Right.
You know.
Mhm.
They did that.
Yeah.
In the school, Hatfield Elementary.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think those are the only questions I had, so I'll shut up. Yeah, and this is open for anyone, so sorry, if any residents have a question, feel free to ask.
Well,
Come up to the mic, can you do that?
is this a statement or a question?
Either,
Both.
Either, yeah.
but if you come up to the mic and say your name, then the minutes are better, okay? Name and address, I'm sorry, and it should say name and address.
I'm Janet McCarty and I live at 13 East Broad Street. If you had the overhead or whatever, Mr. Ferguson,
Can you tell me which house is yours, by the way? When we put up the overhead again, the Google, can you show me which one's your house? Okay.
well,
I'm so close. She's one over.
where's the corner house?
She's the next one in, where the hand is, yeah.
Right there? Okay.
This is the corner, this is,
That's it, with the red.
I'm the second house.
Second house. Okay, got it.
It's very blurry. Oh, okay, I can see that's my garage. All right, now you were talking about garages and privacy. Where I live, that's not it. This is my yard. This is my deck. That's my fountain. Those are my flower beds. That's what I'm gonna look at. And it's very, the old saying, not my backyard. I'm getting it in my backyard.
Mhm.
You're very nice and it's lovely, but it's awfully, there's so much. I mean, maybe 6. The lower the traffic, it's just very crowded, but it's very high. A 6-foot fence is would be about to here on me. Here, because my property's up about 2 feet from the Warriors or 23, whatever. So a fence would just keep people from coming, but it has nothing to do with privacy. And they will be looking down in our yards. I could stand there in my yard and just look where they are, and it's 3 stories high, right? So it's disappointing to me
Mhm.
to have this in my yard, in the backyard. But I'll let them do the traffic because I'm on East Row.
Yeah, so no one should feel intimidated. This is an open forum, so we want to hear everything from everybody, so.
Victor Lewis, 151 Orchard Lane. Now. Away on the other side of the block. I was concerned about the traffic. And going through that intersection and going down the recreation. This is gonna be like a repeat performance from the planning commission. Because I have my notes and I gotta read off my notes, keep my head going straight, but it's gonna be extended version. Once again, I believe that developers do everything they possibly can to make this project work on this strange parcel of land, how it's laid out, it's really strange. And I give them a lot of credit for doing whatever you guys are doing. Like I said, at the planning commission, I'm not against the development. But as a community, we have to look at each project and the impact on our community. I don't mind the 23 North Main Street townhouses that are planning to be built there. But but I am very concerned about the traffic impact that the driveway from this project is going to have to one of our main arteries, North Main Street. I looked over and read most of what I can understand from that traffic report, the transportation impact assessment. And it looks like the engineering experts say that the traffic has been satisfyingly addressed at this time. However, in the Bowman Company letter dated back on November 7th, it does state that it should be noted that based on impact provided on table 10 of the TIA study, the queue along North Main Street from the intersection from Broad Street will extend past the site during both peak hours. So what that means, like.
Go ahead, Vic. Yeah.
Is that queue here to this intersection backs up in the morning and in the evening, which is going to cause a problem with turning. And of course, it says, based on the information on table 10, the TIA study, the queue along Main Street from the intersection will extend past that. The driveway and traffic signal questions should be monitored after the development is opening and operating in full occupancy. Like I said at the meeting, I thought it was kind of like a cheaping out on making the statement. I've lived in the borough for 5 years, and I've noticed an uptick of traffic in a short time I've lived here. And here's my layman's observations as I see them. I measured the distance from the Broad Street, Main Street intersection to the center of the proposed driveway. And I come up, and that's on the corner. I'm supposed to be from here to the proposed driveway, to the center. I measured off at 158 feet. To me, which is very close to the intersection. I drive to that intersection many times, and I timed it out almost every time of 5 seconds to get to that driveway at 25 miles an hour. With that information in hand, I did a Google search and found the stopping distance calculator, which I'll give you 3 different scenarios on vehicle speeds. An average driver, according to what I found, driving perception reaction time is 1.5 seconds. At 25 miles an hour, that means it will take 85 feet to stop, which gives you a safety margin of 73 feet. If you're going at 30 miles an hour, that's 109 feet. Gives you a safety margin of 89 feet. At 35 miles an hour, it's 135 feet, with a safety margin of only 23 feet. And that's if you recognize that something's happening at the corner. If you go past the corner, something's happening, it shortens the distance. The driver perception reaction time of 2 seconds for a tired and older person, which I am one.
We don't think of you that way, Vic.
25 miles an hour, your stopping distance is now 103 feet, which gives you a safety margin of 55 feet. At 30 miles an hour, it's 131 feet, a safety margin of 27 feet. And if you're going 35 miles an hour, there's 161 feet of stopping distance of -3 feet. Now, according to the TIA report on page 3 of the PDF file number 39, page 39, use a driver perception reaction time of 2.5 seconds, which surprised me. At 25 miles an hour, It's 121 feet of stopping distance, it leaves you only 37 feet. At 30 miles an hour, your stopping distance is 153 feet. Now you have a safety margin of 5 feet. At 35 miles an hour, the stopping distance is now 187 feet, a minus of 29 feet. Now, we go to the extended version. There's a lot of talk at the planning commission about the traffic volume. So out of my stubbornness, if you want to call it, I got up at 6 o'clock this morning. I went out there at 6:30 and took traffic count. From 6:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning, there was a total of 458 cars traveling northbound. So that would be coming from South Main Street onto North Main Street, crossing the intersection. And in the TIA report, they use a rush hour time between 7:30 and 8:30. I counted, that was 262 cars, vehicles. Now, the TIA report said it was 277. Now, I remember this is a snapshot of one day. So I wasn't too far off.
You guys think about hiring Vic the next time?
Now, the southbound traffic come from North Main Street towards South Main Street through the intersection. That was a total of 1,333 cars. That's in a 2.5 hour time limit. And that was also the almost 2.5 hours time limit. And once again, they used the hours, the rush hour of 7:30 to 8:30. And that was 460 vehicles I counted. And they had down 498, which is a minus 38 cars. So it was less cars I counted than what was in the report. Just there the roll. Then I went out this afternoon. I was out there from 3:30 to 5:30.
And then the train comes and blocks the train.
On the northbound traffic, from South Main Street to North Main Street through the intersection, there was 876 vehicles in a 2-hour period. And the TIA report used the rush hour of 4:30 to 5:30. And their count was 492, and I had 468 for a negative 24 cars. Southbound from North Main to South Main Street, I counted, once again, I counted was 833 vehicles in a 2-hour period. And the hours was from 4:30 to 5:30, was 416 vehicles. And they had down 456 vehicles, a minus 40 vehicles. So my observations of doing this today, in the morning, I would say about 1/3 of the traffic was traveling faster than the 25 miles an hour speed limit. And I would say there was enough gaps in the traffic to have a right turn onto North Broad to go to South Broad. In the afternoon, though, I would say over half the traffic was traveling much faster than 25 miles an hour coming from south to north. It was very hard to make a left-hand turn onto North Main to go through South Broad due to the traffic northbound. And I will say, I'm sure they, I don't live there on that corner. That's a tough corner in the afternoon to make a left-hand turn. So we're building 8 townhouses, once again, most likely, everybody probably agrees that most likely it's going to be 2 cars per household as in PA statistics, and that's going to be 16 vehicles in that driveway. Plus utility vehicles such as trash, delivery, and not forget Amazon vehicles. I do understand that the new traffic will not be using it all at the same time, but the additional traffic that close to the busiest intersection in the borough gives me concern. I live in Orchard Lane, and the only way I can enter North Main Street is from East School Street. And for me to make a left-hand turn onto left Main Street takes me a while sometimes due to traffic. From East School Street, I'm good distance away from Broad and Main Street intersection, and I have a great gap distance and see the traffic coming towards me. But the people who live on that corner, it's tough. I tell you, it's tough. What I see this afternoon, it's tough. Especially with that traffic coming northbound. In conclusion, once this development is completed as proposed, we may have made a dangerous situation for the people in the borough and the people traveling to the borough. And once again, there's always the question, well, how do I fix that problem? My first suggestion is having the driveway going onto East Fourth Street, which means the driver will have to buy one of the homes there to make a driveway that way, because it would be more in the middle of the block. And plus it's a grade up, and you're coming off the stop sign at the bottom of that hill. And my only other suggestion, which I made to the planning committee the other day, was at least have no left turns on North Main Street during rush hours, not just rush hours on the proposed driveway. Now, I would say, after sitting there and watching the traffic and seeing the traffic, I think you would only need that no left turns in the afternoon, out in the morning, because there are plenty of gas lines. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one question, I don't know if it'd be Ben or Pete or Ralph, when we think about visibility out of that driveway, right? We're not gonna have any visibility issues. We don't have anything close to the driveway.
No, it's all PennDOT standard.
Okay. Okay.
I think that it might be a little bit of a visual problem, because there's a telephone pole between the two properties right on the center line, is it not?
There is a pole.
Yeah, and I think that might cause a little bit of a visual problem. And
Sorry,
that's where you just sitting there.
Where is it on the map here from what I can see?
There's a pole right here.
Okay, right on the corner,
Right.
okay.
But based on the PennDOT standard, the pole is actually not an obstruction. You take your site distance from 10 feet from the edge of the travel way, which is the curb line,
Mhm.
and you see actually behind the pole. And
Okay.
you can meet all the PennDOT standards, you can see through the intersection. And, PennDOT has a safety criteria. It sets the standard for a 25-mile-an-hour road on what site distance you need, and we exceed that through the intersection.
Okay. So what is the standard and what do we have as the number offhand?
Yeah, so based on our measurements and the standard, first off, and that standard is, you're looking to the left, and you want to exit to make a left or right hand turn. The PennDOT standard is 250 feet of site distance, and we are showing that we have about 385 feet. To the right, the standard is 195 feet, and we have about 750 more because it's a straight shot. And then we also do measurements for left turns in. So a left turn in, so somebody wants to make a left hand turn into the site. what's the sight distance for a person to see them from behind? Which is approaching the same direction. The standard is 145 feet and, we have 800 feet from behind.
Okay.
Approaching the opposite direction, so through the intersection. The standard is 190 feet and we have about 700 feet through the intersection. So you can see through the intersection, be able to see people coming.
Okay, okay.
So we meet all of the standards by.
Was it the borough engineer's suggestion to have a middle turn lane going back up through there?
I think he suggested just the striping because there is enough pavement width there today.
Right, because you have 3 lanes at the intersection.
Correct. And that striping doesn't extend back through where this like driveway is or is proposed. But there is the width there. And then I think further back, there's on-street parking that's allowed that narrows that lane.
Back by the post office.
In front of the
But
post
post
office.
office, yeah.
Oh, I think it's a little bit.
It's back, right? You can see the.
Yeah, you can see it, yeah.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood his letter. It sounded to me like he was looking for some core striping down by the left turn lane to turn down Broad Street. But it sounded to me like he wanted a middle turn lane so you can turn left in either direction, either going.
He had put that question to the borough itself,
Is that what he said?
not us,
Okay,
on giving us direction. He was saying borough should consider restriping that area, but I don't know if that, was in conjunction with our development or based on the traffic report independent of it.
If that's something that we wanted to consider, would you guys be willing to pick that up as part of the project?
So I mentioned to Chad and Jamie, we were on an email, and I know that the borough's doing a sanitary project in the area, and then they're gonna be milling and overlaying the road. And so I think the borough's gonna be restriping anyway. I'm certainly happy to maybe give a contribution to that in some fashion.
Okay.
It's probably not much, but yeah, happy to offer something.
Okay.
Chad, that's correct, though, right? You milling another lane, you do the sewer repair.
well, I guess it's budget season, so I guess that.
Budget season?
But-
Hence why I was asking. So,
So I'll read the comment, and then this is where maybe I misunderstood. It says a painted median/center turn lane area should be provided along North Main Street encompassing the site driveway and the church driveway. So a painted median/center turn lane area.
I think he's envisioning core striping that, somebody making a left in could sit in relief. So that they're out of the traffic way if they're making a left turn in. So I would envision he's saying.
I think we'll need more answers from your traffic engineer.
okay.
Yeah, he provides a sketch and we show it on the plan and,
Is that the
Did he-
Bowman?
Yeah, it's
November
cool.
second?
Did he give you that?
no, he didn't give us a sketch. It was.
I think he's talking about
It's on the second
restriping
page,
that
first page.
that left turn lane as a center left turn lane, so that you could either make a left into our proposed site or into, go the other way, make it left into the.
Right. I think it was painted that is.
Chad,
In general, we'll coordinate staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chad,
So my point was, when he's talking about sight distance traveling behind a car that stopped to turn left, if you do have that center left turn lane, then it wouldn't be an issue.
It won't be as much, yeah.
Right.
But either way, they're
outside,
saying.
you would be outside of the travel way then.
Right. Well, part of, I guess, what I'm thinking is, and I don't know the distance that you can have that away from the intersection, right, before it becomes just a left turn. But that could help assuage any issues if you had that turn lane, because people could always turn into that before proceeding into the lane where they're ultimately gonna travel in, right? So, but again, I don't know how far that could extend towards the intersection.
Yeah,
And that might alleviate some of the concerns that residents have about, getting in and out of the properties.
Yeah, reading into the comment, I think it would be a center left turn lane that would ultimately turn into the left turn, the southbound left turn lane at Main and Broad. So it would just be, again, the pavement width is there today.
Mhm.
So it would just be memorializing that lane as a center left turn lane so that you can then utilize it for left. It's just designating it really. Because again, the pavement's wide enough there today
Yeah.
to provide.
a lot of people do that now.
Yeah. Well, I guess too, part of what I'm thinking too, if we did something like that, and again, I'm just spitballing, so please forgive me. Where we have that parking right outside, the street parking right outside the post office, getting rid of that, right? Because there's plenty of parking inside the post office across the street, but the street narrows there and then we're gonna widen it back out and then have a left turn. I think that could get possibly hairy, so that might be something to consider as well. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah.
because it might make traffic flow.
Make the traffic flow better, right? Right.
We need to staff and Anton come up with a solution for everybody.
Can't
Okay.
imagine they'll be opposed to striping, however the borough wants them to.
Okay. All right. So that's an open question for us to kind of finalize what that would look like.
Yeah, my just 2 cents is we don't want to do it twice, right? So like, don't have me spend a bunch of money to do something and then 2 months later tear it up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. No.
And the timing will be key. I mean, if we don't know if it's gonna be paved or repaved, then you're gonna want it, and whether it's gonna be waterborne or thermoplast, that's really the question.
Mhm.
If it's uncertain whether you're gonna pave it anytime in the near future, then do the thermoplast. And if you think you are gonna repave it in the midterm, then you would want waterborne.
Right. Temporary, less expensive. Yeah, I get it. I think. All of it depends on all the timing for all the projects and when this is gonna go. So there's a lot of timing into consideration for that, so. No, but I definitely appreciate the offer to pick that up for the borough, so. I don't have any more questions, sorry.
Did we hear from all the residents?
No, we didn't, but I don't know if there's anyone else that wants to speak. Please feel free.
I have, just one observation I'd like to make. If you look at this photograph, I'm assuming this aerial photograph was taken sometime around midday. And if you notice on Main Street, there's a line of cars, just about where the entrance to the parking lots of the post office is down the corner. Okay, and I can tell you, because I live a few blocks off of there, that is not unusual. Rush hour, midday, maybe at 10 o'clock at night, it's unusual, but regular traffic, that's the way it is. My concern is still the ingress, the egress from there, because you can put in whatever, striping, signs. Human nature is, I gotta get to work, and I'm gonna come out of there, and I'm gonna try and make a left-hand turn rush hour. That's the way people are. And to me, it's a dangerous situation. Same thing with delivery trucks. You got Amazon trucks, they're on a time schedule. Okay. And they're not gonna wait for traffic to clear. They're gonna turn around and go across there, and they're gonna block traffic if they have to get out of there. And that to me is a very dangerous situation now. So my opinion is that's not the way to go. Thank you.
So just so that everybody's clear on this, are you asking that they make it right turn in, right turn out?
To me, they're gonna ignore it anyway. You can put signs up, you can do whatever. You can say right turn only.
Motors.
I mean, I don't know how you can possibly, unless you want to take part of the sidewalk out, you put a guidance in there, or flat top.
You can put a concrete
An
barrier
island,
of
yeah.
some sort.
Yeah.
You can put an island in the center that directs it.
But they're gonna, I guarantee you, they're gonna go around that, and they're gonna try and make a left-hand turn.
You do it up there at Giant.
If, if you go up to Lydia, to the right outside the borough there, by the gas station, the entrance to the homes there on Lydia Drive.
think it's been at least.
You go by there, I see it all the time, people coming out of there, and that's the way their setup is. In fact, their setup is even wider, like twice as wide as what they're showing there on this one. And they don't go, they don't go through there and around the traffic light and come down. They come around there and they'll cut right in front of you. It's happened to me. I was wound up in some guy's side door for doing that.
I guess the reason I wanted to clarify that is tonight's a night where we can tell them.
Yeah.
What we're interested in seeing. Okay, and so that's something we want you to consider. The pork chop idea, or the right turn, right in, right out. Now, if I lived there, I would probably always go right. who wants to risk the left across the traffic, you know?
That's you, but there's a lot of people that can't be bothered, I don't have the time, and I'm gonna come out.
Right, I guess what I'm saying though is, for the people who live there, it matters as well.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not, some of them may want to go left or right, whatever. Some of them might just want to be safe, and, you know, they buy a place there and then they can't get out of it. Unless they make it right, you know, so I think that's something for the developer to consider. But I just want to remind everybody, and it's mainly for the public, I know the borough council knows this. If a property owner has property that is in compliance with zoning, borough may not turn them down for things that are expected, like traffic or whatever. So what the council's trying to do is see if there are ways we can handle traffic. They're not legally allowed. People think because borough council has the right to vote yes, that they have the right to vote no. The truth is they don't. If a property owner owns a piece of land, the government cannot tell them you have to leave it open. Unless the government buys it, okay? That's the truth. And so it's important for everybody to understand what we're doing at these public meetings is trying to make a development that they got approval for from the zoning hearing board. We're trying to make it palatable and workable so that it works for the neighbors and the rest of the borough, but also the people who are going to live there, who will be residents of the borough. But they can't say no because of the traffic issue. They can only, the best they can do is try to come up with a solution or something that mitigates it or something like that. So that's why we're asking the developer, think about the issues raised by the public and borough council. And see if there's anything you could do to allay the fears that somebody coming out of your development is gonna be in an accident. Because they wouldn't want that either, you know? I don't know what you could do. The striping might be something, to consider left turn, consider right turn in, right turn out. But we had our own traffic engineer look at your study, their study.
Mhm.
And our traffic engineer didn't really recommend anything other than striping in the street.
Yeah, and to your point, what they do recommend is evaluating it after the development's constructed.
Yeah,
So
well, it's too late.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if there's a
Yeah,
condition,
shouldn't have put those up.
if there's a condition
That's unforeseen. right?
that's, well, I mean, if as part of an approval, you have a condition that stipulates certain requirements, such as it be evaluated 6 months after construction. And at that point in time is determined that it needs to be right in, right out. I mean, that's
You could evaluate something specific
right,
like that.
something measurable.
Then it's good.
Tenants court has the stipulation that, within the 18 months, which is the maintenance bond period, that, we can evaluate it, at the developer's expense for, a freeway stop. So that was part of the condition of approval that Borough Council put in because it wasn't warranted for the traffic study at that time, but we thought maybe it was needed for traffic. And we'll see when, that period is up. If we think it is, then that would come out of the developer's expense.
Yeah, and the other side of that coin is, maybe we all come up with an idea now, the developer agrees to it, and then once it's built, there's some unforeseen issue that we didn't know about. You're gonna wanna have the ability to say, hey, we want you to change that because we didn't know this would happen. It goes both ways.
Right, but my point is now's the time to be discussing those options because just because they're gonna produce traffic, which is not an unusual consequence of development, is not a reason to turn them down. Legally, you don't have the right to turn them down. I'm telling you that as solicitor,
Mhm.
that might not be what you want to hear, but that is the truth. That if a property owner owns land in Pennsylvania and everywhere else in America as well, and it's being used in accordance with its zoning, and they did get zoning relief, we have to permit them to do something with it. So,
And consider the potential that, they've required to make a right turn only. And now people are cutting through West School and through those developments, and maybe they're speeding, because people are late for work. And you realize, wow, there's plenty of opportunity for them to take lefts. Why in the world are we creating the situation in that development when we didn't need to?
Mhm.
So again, we don't know. We won't know until it's built.
I like the idea of the 18-month. I forgot we did that with Bennett's because of the truck traffic back on Maple, so I'd forgotten about that.
Speaking of which, have we had any problems with that square? It's almost done. Parking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
No, Ben's Court is great. They're all on for getting some of the rest for release. It turned out a very nice development. Yes, there are some concerns with parking. They do have less parking than this development, actually. Because they live one car garages.
Okay, just so you know, everybody has a garage and they don't put their car in it. They put stuff in it. And then we have parking problems. We have them in several developments in the borough.
Big positive.
Right, we learned this the hard way in Heather Meadows.
Heather Meadows, yeah.
But even on that, they actually have 2-car garages and 2 spaces in the driveway. So even
Yeah.
if people leave all their stuff in the garage.
Still got 2 spaces.
They still got 2 spaces. The only problem is Christmas or Thanksgiving. You know, when everybody comes home from college.
Maybe you'll flip that lease with the post office and use their.
Yeah, because they're probably closed on Christmas.
Yeah, and as we say, there's nothing between the post office property and the proposed property here, right? So there's no,
Fence.
huh?
There's putting a fence.
No, so there'll be a fence separating in two. Okay.
They want a fence?
Planning commission, I think, one of the things.
All right, the only reason I ask is because of the Christmas and Thanksgiving issue, people could park in the parking lot and then walk across.
Kate, it's gonna be a post and rail. I actually requested that in my letter
Okay.
because there's nothing stopping,
The parking is technically on our property.
there's nothing
Right.
stopping these
The bullet
vehicles
space, so yeah.
Exactly.
from just driving into this area. There's no physical barrier stopping them. It's just the edge of paving. So you're gonna put
So
something.
you gotta
to
put a
stop-
fence up, okay.
Yeah, post and rail. It's more of a visual barrier.
And we asked the question, is that secure enough? Post and rail, you know, if somebody drives a
Think about
car
a gate.
through and there's people there.
Post
that's
and rail,
not
you're
gonna
talking about the, is it
split
the,
rail, just fence, you know.
the
In case people
3-layered
were
wood,
picnicking
is that?
there or
Yeah, okay.
something.
Well, at the planning commission, the discussion on the post and rail was at the end of the driveway here for vehicles facing this way. If you- can you-
Right, I'm just thinking of Heather Meadows at Christmas Eve.
Yep.
Think about it.
Well, even with the post and rail, we could put a gate in there, so, or an opening, right? So people could walk
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
or something simple.
So right now, vehicles just pull straight into this property here, and there's nothing stopping them just from keeping going. What we discussed at the planning commission was this driveway here between these units. Planning commission was asking for some sort of barrier here as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we said like.
I just think everybody ought to think about the fact that the post office is publicly owned and closed on big holidays when people need extra parking.
Now, Chad, if we put up speaking of that, if we put up a fence at the end of the driveway, how would that impact any potential trails that we would put through there? Wouldn't someone then have to cross into someone's property to access it?
Well, I mean, you can put a 5-foot gap between the fence. Whatever, I mean, the trail would probably come up through here.
Okay,
So
We were talking
if you
about
put a
bollards.
5-foot gap, which is ADA accessible, so the vehicle's not getting through that.
okay, okay.
Motorcycle.
So you'd basically back it off the road enough to give that access.
Yeah,
is what you're
and
saying.
the planning commission was actually requesting bollards. or
Was
something.
bollards or fence, but yeah, it's off there enough to, I get it.
Something
Okay.
sturdy.
Yeah, I get it. No, I get it. I get it. So, okay, but there's a gap if we want to do that. So that's really, yeah. Okay.
I know I asked you before, but are you dead set on the name? I know one of your wives did not like the name.
We're open to, you guys pick the name.
You think the name?
You pick the name.
I think Ferguson Estates would be great. So, but you know,
Burning them down.
yeah, exactly. So- You call it Wolverine Estate.
I was just gonna say
Wolf-
Buckeyes.
No,
Buckeyes
no
thing.
Buckeyes, no.
You got beat up on-
How many people in this room hate the Ohio State Buckeyes? Okay, never mind. Usually it's Penn State and in Michigan, we agree on that at least, so, but. So kind of in summary, it really sounds like there's really 2 open questions, right? We have the traffic question that's still out there. How do we want to optimize it and protect ourselves for future? And ultimately pay for any line striping that. The other question that was brought up was visibility, right? You know, there's a concern about the difference in elevation and what does that mean? So I would actually pose the question, is a 6-foot privacy fence enough, or would a 9-foot be more appropriate or something, even possibly bigger? To me, when I see 12-foot ones or higher, they're gaudy, and that really, to me, highlights a bigger problem, but in that area, maybe a 9-foot might be a better approach.
To be honest with you, if these are 3-story buildings, a 9-footer is not gonna do anything more than a 6-footer would do.
Well, I'm not thinking of the overall axis, but and again, I haven't been out there to see the height elevation, but you described it only coming up to here because of the height elevation. 9-foot, it will at least give you what a normal 6-foot would be, right? To give you that additional privacy, given the height difference. So that's why I was questioning that, but I haven't been out there to look at that, so maybe it's something we can think about, because to your point, it's not gonna help the elevation, but it might help just the visibility, the normal visibility.
And I'd be happy to meet out there if you want.
Okay, okay,
We'll look at it.
all right.
So I just want to make sure I understand where we are on the open space issue. Okay, on the open space, you're offering it for dedication. Right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the borough can decide later whether they want it or not. Understanding the limitations and the good news.
Correct.
The limitation is we need to get an easement on the Walker property. Or we need to be able to build a bridge over the creek. And get
For plan recording purposes, it would still then need to be a property line. So it would still be a fee simple property, just owned by the same
Right.
owner.
Right,
We keep the plan the way it is with the,
offer of dedication, right? So,
But we
just
don't-
for timing
We don't need to
purposes-
make that this, we don't have to have this discussion tonight to finalize that,
No,
right?
you don't, but
Okay.
I have to write a resolution,
Right.
okay? So I guess what I'm thinking is, what is the timing on this? They're going back to the planning commission, is that what I heard? Okay? And then coming, back to us December, or what,
I think January.
January?
Back to council in January.
Are
Okay,
you looking when you come back in January for an approval resolution?
I was hoping so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
then you want them to, right,
Maybe
you want
the-
them to come back in
maybe
December,
the end of
they
January.
make decisions before then, or you're just? We're
Well,
gonna have.
when in January are we talking? Are we,
We're talking about the proposed one meeting in
The end of
January.
January.
that's true, okay.
so what are are you around for our second, maybe we should have a draft resolution for the 18th meeting?
For December, is that what you mean? You guys are gonna wanna see a draft resolution, you're gonna
Right.
wanna tweak it, you're gonna wanna do something before you want to vote on it in January, if that's the
Right.
timeframe. The solicitor just needs to know the direction to start to put things together.
So you don't necessarily have to make a presentation or anything, but you might want to have somebody at the 18th meeting to discuss it. If we put it on the
Makes sense.
agenda to discuss it, then I'll come up with a draft resolution.
And keep in mind, they're requesting preliminary final, so it's one and
Right,
done.
this is it.
One and done, right.
Preliminary / final is it.
I'm free on the 18th. I can come December 18th.
Okay, so.
Okay, so Kate, you'll have, or, excuse me,
So I'll
Madam
have a
Solicitor, you'll have a draft, okay?
resolution For the 18th.
Okay.
If we have anything else from the traffic engineer, to let me know, make sure they're done. You've already done your reviews, Chad. I'm not waiting for anything else on you, are
No, my reviews, there's at this point not a whole lot to it. I mean,
you?
it's
Right.
a couple pages, but I think it's minor. at this point.
Right, I think though, as the borough engineer and Jamie as the manager and our traffic engineer ought to discuss the striping in the middle of the street issue. And how that works with our other public works that we've already planned. So that if we make it part of this, we know it works.
I was going to, because Anton's gonna be at the planning commission meeting at the 16th for a final question. I can certainly ask him for some type of sketch, what he's thinking in his mind, what the language is on the paper, and provide that. So we kind of are on the same page moving forward. Just so we can kind of keep it moving, and we're not guesstimating what his language means or the interpretation into.
Yeah, honestly, a couple lines on a plan will clear this all up.
Hmm.
Right, yes, so I will ask him for more details and for my sketch.
So I'll have a draft resolution ready for the.
Okay, okay. And then obviously that'll give council time to think about the two different options, the dedication versus the deed of restrictions.
Right.
Is there any other pros and cons or anything you want to detail out for that with us as we think about that for the future?
No, I mean, I think it's gonna come down to whether it enhances the existing part that is contiguous. Or is just, a way for people to get to the existing part. Because they're willing to give us an easement so that we can walk across it, get to the existing part.
Yeah.
So, the only other thing what I was thinking is, we're all about connectivity and being part of the county trail, and all that. I don't know whether this fits in with that, if you can get through our other county parking, if people could walk. And that's one of the nice things about the borough, and this part of the borough is it's very walkable, so somebody buys a townhouse, they wanna go out to dinner, they can walk to it. We gotta figure out, making that easy, because that'll help our businesses as well, and make it work for us. So, we gotta think about.
Before we conclude, I think we should discuss the waivers at least, because that could have an impact on the project. So they're requesting two waivers. The first one being the setback for the parking, and when I say parking, it includes the driveway as well. Your ordinance requires 20 feet from the property line. They're proposing roughly 8 or 9. I think it was 9 maybe.
Can you highlight where that, which?
But be this property line. We're
Okay.
talking about the privacy.
Yeah, okay.
So they're proposing it to be roughly 9 feet off the property line. Your SALDO requires 20. And they're also requesting to use that 6-foot high privacy fence in lieu of landscape trees.
Let's take them one at a time, because, to be legal, a waiver has to have a good reason. Am I right that they don't have 20 feet off the property line to fit the driveway in?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's physically impossible.
Correct, due to the nature of the site.
And the driveway, correct me from, it's 2 lanes and it has a parking lane as well, or is it just the 2 lanes?
2 lanes and parallel
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 right.
parking spaces.
On the other side, right? Okay, all right.
And
Not that you have to vote tonight, but at least if anybody's opposed, I suggest you let them know.
Okay,
the planning commission took both of those up and didn't have any objections to them.
with the setup as is today. Okay, so
With-
the
with
waiver that
these
they're
two
requesting.
waivers.
Okay, okay.
Keeping in mind that they received their zoning relief with this layout.
Right,
So zoning hearing board essentially allowed this to occur.
okay.
The second one again was the landscaping, so it's a 6-foot high privacy fence in lieu of landscaping that would be required. In my opinion, it doesn't fit. Doesn't
Right.
fit. I know arborvitae's were discussed. I think that would be a great idea. I'm concerned that they won't survive.
Mhm.
I think
And
the
when
neighbors
we-
like the fence.
It was discussed at the planning commission about arborvitae's potentially.
No, I'm saying, I thought the neighbors liked the fence.
Yeah, they do now, right?
Rather have-
Is it like the white nylon fence or is it
Fine.
white vinyl? Okay, so it is completely sealed. There's no openings.
There
Yeah,
will be one opening for the fire hydrant. There will be a fire hydrant on this side.
okay,
There will have to be a small gap for obviously access to that.
okay, okay. And then the HOA is responsible for that fence as well?
Yes.
Absolutely. No opposition to the waivers?
I don't have any opposition to the waivers. Anyone else?
What size is the fence gonna be? Is it-
Well, I think that's what we're still talking about. So I think we're gonna meet to walk through and see, would a 9-foot or higher be appropriate compared to the 6, right? So I think that's the open question, but the fence is there. You're already planning for it. We're gonna put the fence in, so. So maybe we can set up a time, if you can coordinate with Jamie, and then she'll set up with us, and then anyone from council can go out there at that time and wanna see it, so. Or even some of the residents, if they wanna meet us out there at that point to walk through it, that might be helpful for us as well too. So,
After the
It's okay.
holiday.
after the Christmas holiday?
After the fence.
Just kidding, I'm just kidding. I'm just making sure everyone's awake, so, okay. All right,
I'll get with you for the first meeting in December, sure.
okay. And then anyone from the public, is that okay if I suggested, Jamie, if they reach out to you so that if they want to be there while we're meeting with them at the same time, they can?
I don't have any.
Okay. No, it just means more phone calls for you, that's why I'm asking, so.
You call them all.
Owen, do you have a question?
I did.
Listen to them online, like down. I don't think I can comment online. I heard you say that site distance is, 10 feet from the travel way, and I also heard you say curb line. 10 feet from the travel way is not the curb line. And, 10 feet from the travel way would be essentially 10 feet back from the curb line. And I don't see, is there a diagram to show those site distance drawings? Because that corner property there on Broad Main has a fence that comes out to about 4 feet off the curb. I'm not sure how you get the site distance.
She's gonna pop up on that.
I could find a
It's gotta be in your traffic
site
study
plan.
somewhere.
One of the first.
The first page,
The first sheet of the set.
yeah, the first one has the.
I just have to find the page on that.
Just scroll up a couple sheets.
Yeah, I would just.
It's page 17.
There we go.
You want to
So
zoom in on
that's
that?
the point of, I'll say, eye
Right,
of the driver.
and then that's the line, which is inside the right of way, and the fence stops the right.
So the site distances were marked from that part. Is that what we're talking about? Okay?
Yep, the driver's eye is 10 feet from the curb line, which is the travel lane.
So I just misheard. I thought you said. I guess you don't have one here, but, where that fence is on the property.
Existing fence?
Yeah,
The fence ends right
I'm
here,
talking about the fence, the existing fence on the property.
on this property.
Yeah,
Yeah, it ends before the right of way line. So this being the right of way line, which is, the borough street ownership, it ends before that.
Which approximate distance off the curb, you happen to know?
So it's 6 feet, 6 or 7. It's about 2 feet from the. Which one's it?
Can you go to existing features plan?
On this side.
Go down on the plan. There you go. You zoom in on that,
Oh, that's.
this area
The fence is 2 feet from the back of the sidewalk.
it's a fence on top of like a short walk, right?
It's ours.
Yeah, it's on the right side of the driveway.
Yeah, so that fence is over here.
Oh.
Their driveway's here,
right?
and the house is up here, that wall's here.
No problem. So it sounds like council doesn't have any issue with the two waivers.
And everything else was well complied, right?
Yes, sir.
Which means they're confident that they can resolve all the other comments in my letter. I am as well.
And then, like we said, we still just have the two open questions, the traffic and then the height of the fence, so.
Yep.
I don't have anything.
Right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the public input as well. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Doesn't have battery.
Do we need to take a break for a few minutes? Because we can if we need to. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we take a 5 minutes break? Recess. we can go ahead and continue our meeting. So thank you everyone for patiently waiting for us. We'll go on to item 6, new business, and we'll start with the 2025 preliminary budget update and discussion.
Included in your packets, to start off, was just a memorandum for myself that outlines our 2025 advertising requirements. So as we're getting close to December and getting close to finalizing a budget, if there will be revenue increases in that budget, there are certain requirements that have to be met. So just wanted to outline those for you of what you could expect to see at the next meeting, which is December 4th. And at the following meeting, which would be the December 18th meeting, that if there was a real estate tax increase in the budget, that we would have to advertise that for a public meeting to be held. We have to advertise the budget for inspection. If there are any electric or sewer rate increases, those are done by a resolution. So you will see those next meeting as well, just as we start to prepare to finalize the budget. So we're all on the same page of what you'll expect to see in each packet moving forward through the end of December. Included in your packet was the proposed 2025 budget. There are some changes from last week. The major changes in the budget are very simple. We went through, Diane and myself went through, we cleaned up all the transfers in the budget. So when we're transferring money from our general fund to our electric fund or electric to capital projects, we balanced those out and cleaned those up a little bit. When we went to the capital projects, we had a deficit still, so we plugged in a number from a transfer from our invested funds. So that's how we balanced the budget. The budget currently still as presented at the public hearing or public meeting, I guess, last week for the budget. It does have a 1 mil real estate tax increase, and it does have a 1 cent electric rate increase proposed for 2025, which would give you the balance of the 145,866. I also wanted to highlight that that 145,866, 113,000 of that for a sewer capital reserve. I can't transfer that sewer capital reserve to pay for my police services. That sewer capital reserve money is coming in from an EDU audit that Hatfield Borough did, and those funds are committed to putting infrastructure in for our sewer. So we can balance our sewer, and I can do sewer projects with those funds. So I'm really taking the 113 minus the 145, and adding my 62,000, which would give us roughly a budget of $94,000. Total, as we're saying, surplus left over. So wanted to clear up any of that. When you see the 145, I know there might be some questions of, is the tax increase necessary or is the electric rate increase necessary? I can't take that 113 out and pay for police services or because it's dedicated to the sewer fund. We're hoping with those EDU monies, when they come in, we'll put them in our capital reserve, and next year it could balance our sewer. We can use those in the future for future projects. If we're replacing mains or doing things like that, it's going to be for future money. It just, unfortunately, I can't transfer that like we can do some other ones. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront and make that clear. And then budget, finance, and labor, President Ferguson, you can add anything. Those were just the main simple changes from what we got from when we presented at the public meeting.
So to highlight a couple things Jamie said, so the 145 is really more like 94K. So in the budget, we did or are proposing a 1 mil increase and a 1 cent increase in electric. And we know that's not a thing that we take lightly, but we do feel that it is necessary. To highlight the sewer reserve money again, we have talked about what we can do with that in the future. So it wouldn't impact this budget, but it could potentially impact the 26 budget. But I think for now, I think I'm comfortable presenting this budget to the council and to the public, given the numbers. Now, we're still doing some calculations with NextEra, so some of the numbers could change slightly. But I think overall, we're still looking at somewhere in the range of 1 mil and 1 cent increase. And so I'm comfortable presenting this to the public and to council with our recommendation that this is what we recommend going forward with. So with that being said, I'll open up the questions. Go ahead, Owen. Yeah.
In the electric funds expenses, there is event sponsorships for like $26,000. What are we sponsoring?
Do you know what page that's on?
That, I don't exactly know what page it is on, but event sponsorships is what we title as, just the borough events. Don't host the borough events, we just call it sponsorships. And I think it dropped down to 24.5, so it was 26. That was a small decrease to 24.5. We call it event sponsorships, but we lumped, so we used to break out the events, how much we would spend on Earth Day, how much we spend on Founder's Day or Fall Festival. We just lumped them all into one item instead of breaking out a budget for each event and tell our public information officer, you have X amount of money and however you spend it is how you spend it for your events, but that's your line item. Instead of kind of, I hate to say micromanaging her and giving her a budget for each event. So it's just our cost to host the events.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that too, we did talk about, is it something that we want to cut out? And we just felt that the way the community operates, the movie nights, the things that we do, we still want to continue that. So we thought that was worth keeping in the budget. All right, so I think the next step is we're going to finalize the NextEra numbers, kind of look at that. We have some open questions with them about that. We'll get that answered, but basically, next meeting, or let me rephrase that. The advertisement for that, when does it have to go out?
So you will make a motion to advertise the budget at the December 4th meeting.
December 4th,
And
okay.
then you will vote on the budget at the December 18th meeting, but in that time, you can still make changes to the budget. 10%, right?
Right, but you have to give 10 days notice. So after you vote on it, or after you put it out there, you have to give people 10 days to review it before you actually vote it.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's the reason why we gotta do it on the 4th.
Right.
And it will probably be either, probably go, I think I counted it can go in the paper on Friday, and we meet the more than a committee requirement.
Okay.
Probably, whatever we decide once we get it.
So we have one last chance to look through it, to make any changes. We'll have some updates. We'll present it again to everyone on the 4th for advertisement for finalization on the 18th. So.
I think, you talked about NextEra, people in the audience may not realize that that's an electric supplier. right?
Yes. Yes.
And then we've already been notified by PJM, the electric, what do they call that?
The RTO.
Grid.
Yeah,
The grid,
The grid,
it is the grid,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that their expenses are gonna go up.
Right.
And that's one reason that we're having an issue with the electric,
About 33% as of the latest we heard. I don't know when,
right?
but that's going to be spread out over 10 years, but still, it is.
That's why the public has to recognize that we make money on electric usually, and can use it for doing things like those sponsorships that we're questioning. Yeah, and also paying for a portion of the salaries that are devoted to that, but the costs of it are going up.
And we did mention at the previous meeting that, I think the number was what, $600,000 it increased overall. And again, whether it's us that provide electricity or it's any of the other big players that provide it, those costs are going up for them as well too. So it's not like it's just hitting us here in the borough, it's going to be hitting everybody. So.
And one other comment I'd like to make is that this budget is probably one of the most difficult things that I personally have been through. And I want to give a shout out to Jamie and all the staff for all the work that they put into this, because we got caught flat-footed because of the situation with the electric increase. And like Jason said, it's not just us, it's everybody else in the state of Pennsylvania, various other areas too. But we really tried to keep the increases to a minimum, because we understand, what goes on in people's lives, what the, the situation is nowadays. But still, we're faced with having to try and maintain what we need to do here within the borough without putting an undue burden on our residents. So I think a shout out is well deserved for these people to spend all this time trying to put everything together. And, the situation we're in, it's unfortunate, but it's just fact of life at this point. And we tried our damnedest to make sure we're trying to bring everything out so we don't have to have an undue burden for the residents.
And to build on what Vice President Gerard said, one of the things I think if we look back after COVID with all the cost of living increases that happened with COVID, we basically kept things pretty much flat, right? So even though we could have been justified to add millage and add taxes on, we really kind of kept it flat at that point too. So, and I think again, that's a testament, as Rich said, to the team, to Jamie's team and everyone trying to think about the best interests of the residents. And I think we've done that. And so, like I said, we didn't take lightly these increases for next year's budget. We did not take that lightly. So, but I think part of the management here in the borough, we're very fortunate to have the management team that we have. And that's been reflected in the limited amount of increases we've had over the years. So I think that's definitely a positive and something for residents to think about. So.
Thank you very much. I couldn't do it without Diane, my right and my left hand, and taking my morning calls, afternoon calls, evening calls, and evening calls. So Diane deserves just as much credit. She doesn't get the limelight of being up here in a public meeting a lot, and I do appreciate all the time and effort that she, as well as Budget, Finance, and Labor, and the rest of council who have met with me and talked about the budget and taking the time out of their day. It's a joint effort for everyone, and like you said, it's not what you want to see. You don't want to have to put these increases because we all feel the increases as well. We're trying to make the best fiscal decisions for the future of the borough.
Well, if there are no more questions on that, we'll go to item B, ordinance 557, the rental inspection program.
It's something we've been looking at for a while. Let me see, is it in here? Yes. We actually looked at this a while ago, and then it came back as part of the International Property Maintenance Ordinance, and we split it out so that it was a separate thing. And the idea would be that we have a rental registration program already. If you're gonna rent something out, you have to register it. And we do some inspections with this, but the idea here was that we would actually charge a fee and do an inspection no less often than once every 3 years. So that if you want to rent a property out in the borough, and we do have a lot of rental units in the borough, surprisingly. I say surprisingly because y'all live here and you don't rent your house. You don't rent them out to somebody else, and you don't rent them, to live in. But a surprising percentage of the borough is rental properties. And so, in order to make sure that they are safe, maintenance wise and things like that, we're gonna have to have our code officer inspect them. So you're adopting the most current International Property Maintenance Ordinance, and then we're already inspecting them in accordance with that ordinance, but we want to make it explicit that that's the ordinance we're using. We're gonna inspect them. Still have to register. And you still have to be inspected, no less often than once every 3 years, and on other occasions as well, new tenants, I believe, things like that. So, basically, we used Pottstown's ordinance for this, not completely.
That and right now.
That's right, had produced, or Jamie got them, or Katie got them, and we went over them. And came up with one that worked for Hatfield. They're similar but not the same. So, I think Pottstown's housing stock is older than ours. But we have older houses as well, things like that. And it also works if you're a building of apartments, or if you're just renting out one house or two houses or something like that. So that's the idea behind it, that we're gonna be able to make sure that the housing stock looks good and works well for the people who are renting it. So that's basically it. And paid for it, we have to charge the registration fees.
Right, right. Are there any questions on that? If not, I'd like to thank current Larry for his involvement in it and retired Larry for his involvement in it too. I believe you had started this before you stepped down from council. And I know this has been a long time coming, so I appreciate all the effort that's gone into this.
So I think
And-
you have an action item tonight to advertise it.
We
right?
do, yep,
Just so
to
I
advertise,
know.
yep.
Okay,
I was about to, so yeah.
sorry.
No, you beat me to it, Kate. You beat me to it.
Does that apply to both complexes as well as the homes that are used as?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Any rental unit.
That's what I was just reading, but I just didn't know, and then, I guess, do you know where all the rental, like, not necessarily complexes, but like the house that someone's renting?
Well, we've been registering them for a while, largely because of electric.
I was gonna say, for fire safety, a lot of times, twins are missed, or, someone rents in Heather Meadows. Most of the time, we can catch that because landlords are asked, to put their tenants, to put the electric in their name. So any electric that's in somebody's name, that's not the owner, then that's considered like a rental unit. So we have that like caveat catch after the fire safety.
So we've been able to track them that way.
All right, if there are no more questions, we'll go to item C, updating the consolidated fee schedule.
So this is the fee schedule for Hatfield Borough. The draft is in the front, and then the blue line version is all the changes that were made. We needed to update this fee schedule. We haven't since 2019. And as part of the rental inspection ordinance we're enacting, we're charging fees that are based on just updating the fee schedule, so we don't have to update the ordinance every time. So we had Bob in the code department go through and compare what our fees were compared to similar municipalities, along with Planning, Building and Zoning Committee looked at this to see where other municipalities were based where we are. As we all know, or maybe we don't know, it's not a moneymaker. The schedule, it covers the cost for the services. So, we can't charge $1,000 for a rental inspection because, Bob only charges us X amount of dollars an hour. So it's, supposed to be comparable. You can see the changes that were made throughout this. And it will be on as an action item in an upcoming meeting to go along with the rental inspection program and the other fees.
Do we have to advertise for this?
A resolution, we do not.
Okay.
We do have to advertise the ordinance. And
Okay,
I think I made it effective January 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, so
okay.
hopefully everything will get done in December, and then January 1st, we can start with it.
Hmm. Questions? If not, we'll go to item D, payment request number 1 for utility replacement project.
Payment request number 1 for the utility replacement project is in your packets. It's a recommendation from Chad, who's here this evening. If you have any specific questions on the project, just was great timing for you to be here. It's their first payment request for work completed through November 2nd in the amount of $291,685.50, which is 100% reimbursable from the North Penn Water Authority, as we are partnering with them for part of this project.
Any questions on the payment? How are they progressing by that?
They expect to finish the water line work next week. They'll begin the stormwater work, the borough portion, the first week in December.
Okay.
That'll start on West Broad. West Broad.
And in your estimate, they're still on schedule? No delays, okay. The
Correct.
weather's been nice to help
Yeah,
with
it
that.
has
so.
been, thankfully. I tell you, it was a big help getting the detour in place. That's helping this move along quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
So can I ask a question? Does this project affect in any way the discussion we had earlier about 23 North Main?
The only impact will be the sanitary sewer work in North Main Street and where we're tying in the lateral that's being replaced to the existing house. So between Steve Bickert and myself, we coordinated on how that's gonna be run so that it can work with the existing house and also work with the future development.
So we want to rip the road up again to put their development on.
Correct.
Right,
It's
okay.
planned for that.
And then are we repaving the street? I thought we were after it's all done.
Budget and
Yeah,
Okay, because then I was thinking that maybe we work in the repayment of the lines if that's what the council decides is the right thing to do.
yes.
With
So
the contribution from the developer.
the repaving will just be over top of the trenches as part of that contract. And then Borough have to decide if they're gonna repave
The
the
whole
entire
thing.
curb to curb. I know that the Hatfield Township has been wanting to repave their portion for a number of years now, and Steve's been successful in having them delay that so it can all be done in one shot. So the hope is that it gets done.
It is proposed in the 2025 budget and coming 100% out of, plus costs that aren't covered. I'm gonna quote 100% from liquid fuels.
One question, couple of the neighbors were asking me. So they've trenched across up here from,
You talking about abroad or you talking? Yeah.
Cross Street, yeah. They've gone left to right now, all the way up, and it's pretty crappy. The patchwork, are they still digging those up during the day and doing stuff, or are they done with those parts?
Yeah, so that's called temporary paving.
Right,
That'll stay in place until the stormwater work is done, and then it'll have to be permanently done, not just over the trenches, but and that requires some additional
Right.
paving as well.
so, I mean, could we mention to them that, because a couple of them are pretty jarring when you drive. I drove down through there just to check.
I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, and just let them know, they gotta be, that's what I thought. I was hoping that they were not done there and that they were gonna dig it up during the day, put it back down.
Yeah.
But if they're finished with those laterals now, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, I'll
I
reach
mean,
out. It's
yeah.
been North Penn Water Authority's inspector on site. We haven't
Okay.
visited all their work. We haven't been out there, but I'll reach out to them.
Okay. Cause there's so many of them too. It's like, bum, bum, bum,
Oh,
bum,
yeah.
bum, bum.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I will reach out.
thank you.
Sure.
Well, like, we're doing the work through your contract, those more, and paying for their portion of the work.
Yeah, so how it will work is we authorize, because we got the bid, we authorize it, we will pay the payment, and then the invoice, we will invoice North Penn Water, and they have, I believe the contract is 30 days to pay. So Diane and I, we talked about this, we'll get the check out, and then we'll invoice North Penn Water, and we'll get the reimbursement back within 30 days to put back into the account.
And Chad, just to highlight, we did talk about that as one of the roadwork projects to cut in 25, but we did keep it because we know the township wants to do that as well too. So that way we can coordinate it together.
Yeah, and it does help that it's liquid fuels funded.
Yeah. Okay. As I said, we have an action item for that, later tonight. We'll go on to item E, the SEPTA sublease agreement with Bard and Chester Brewery.
That's me.
Okay.
I used the old sublicense agreement that SEPTA had approved for Salters. And I wrote it up as a lease, and the other side was, very put off by it originally, but we were able to work through the details, and amazingly, we have to get SEPTA's approval for this, so I sent it to them and told them it's just a draft, but they were like happy, because they recognized it's their lease, so they're fine with it.
Okay.
The basic idea here is that because Barton Jesters is going to invest their own money, they need a long lease, so it's coextensive with the SEPTA lease. In other words, they get the same renewals that we get, and they expect that they'll stay there that long. At the same time, they're uncomfortable with the idea that SEPTA can take it back, but that is our lease with SEPTA. SEPTA has that right, and they have regulations, federal regulations that sort of overcome anything they might want to do otherwise. So that's still out there, and they have to get the financing so that they can rehab the storage building and make that where they're gonna do the brewing. And then they wanted people to be able to sit and enjoy the brews in the station building.
Right.
That costs money. So we're giving them a credit on the lease in the beginning, so that they'll be spending all that money to get the brewery up and going. And, the hope is that it will not only, give us a use for the septic station, but also add to the downtown life in the borough, so that people who, want to come here, go out to dinner or go out, for an evening, have more places to go. And the idea behind that, and that came, basically from our, consultant, was to bring people downtown, get them doing it. So the sublease is here. If you read through it and have any problems with it, let me know as soon as possible. They were very anxious initially to get it, the tenant, and now I'm waiting on them to see if they can get their financing. So,
Yeah, I don't know if it's a measure, right? But SEPTA is not taking back any of the properties that they've leased out to anybody, right? So.
they aren't, but they have to reserve the right. And what I explained to the other attorney was that, it's highly unlikely that this rail line is gonna get, reinvigorated as a passenger line.
Mhm.
I mean, if you listen to the news, you know that that's how many money. Anyway, they're way behind the eight ball when it comes to funding their budget for
Mhm.
next year, okay? And they're looking for state help on that. I think it's unlikely that they're gonna do anything like the North Penn.
Any
Railway
capital
or-
projects or anything, yeah,
Exactly.
and that's pretty expensive for them.
That would be
Yeah.
very expensive. So I think it's unlikely they're gonna take it back, and I did explain that to them, and I think they accept that. It's just that, if you're a lawyer for a tenant, you don't want to have a lease that says, yeah, we can take it back at any minute. Okay,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
it's the way it has to be.
So do we have an estimated time frame on when
Well,
we
I
think
would-
we'll get an answer on this, or
I
will?
would carry this on the agenda next time to be approved. Also, I think I made this one effective January 1st. Okay. And then I have a date that they have to fill in, telling us when they're gonna open. Say December.
Change the date. It's gonna be the date that we sign it.
And, term shall commence on December 1st. You're right. We're gonna have to change that to January. Or whatever date.
Sorry.
we both answer.
Yeah, so like, that's the date there.
Right.
Or a halo or
That's
something.
fine. The date I'm missing is the date when they promised to be in operation and open for business. Okay, because I don't want us to rent it to them, give them a rent credit, and then just have it sit there.
Right.
So I want them to promise us they'll be open for business by a certain date. Okay,
Do we have any sort of recourse if they give us a particular date and they're not open at that point?
well, they'll be in breach of the lease, and we could terminate it. If they've already spent some money, then they won't want us to do that. It's kind of a goal. And the reason is, we're giving them a credit for 36 months, but they have to open on a certain time to get it. I guess if they don't open by that date, we can go back and take back the credit. We're threatening to do that,
So basically, we're not putting any money out up front, so we have that.
right?
So, okay.
And we have actually, some credits from SEPTA. So it should all work economically.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the intention really is to move them along so that they start, and that's why we put that timing in there,
Correct.
so, yeah.
Correct, I want to make sure that they did that, because we're giving them the credit on the rent. We want to make sure it's done. Don't want them to come back to us in 3 years and say, oh, we need a couple more years free rent, because we can get around to it, you know what I mean, or whatever. The other issue was, the parking lot is, they can use it, but it's a non-exclusive use. In other words, we get to use that parking lot too, because we use it for some activities,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And, I think they're okay with that, as long as they have the parking near the station that they can use, and they do, and there's always plenty of parking. Yes.
There is, I mean, yeah, and even probably the busiest parking times have been like in this past election, and there were still lots of spaces. You just had to
Right.
walk for an extra minute, but there's
Right.
plenty of space there.
So to get them to understand that, Steve agreed we would, not plow the parking lot. We don't want to do that. We got too many roads we gotta get done first, but that we would take care of the sidewalks. So that'll be, I think that'll be some.
All right. So we'll have it in, for a vote the next meeting.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay. All right, any questions? If not, we'll go to old business, item 7, old business, ordinance number 556, updating the International Property Maintenance Code from 2023 to 2021.
Well, we didn't take it backwards. Didn't go.
2003.
What?
From 2003 to 2021. What did I say? Oh, apologies.
Oh, no, do we go the wrong way?
Yeah, let me be clear, from 2003 to 2021.
Right, and we have language in our current ordinance that says as amended from time to time, but we thought that it would make more sense to put the current international property management ordinance in here, so nobody questions whether we should have done that by ordinance, you know? Because one problem is, you start to inspect and insist on things, and people look for any way to get out of it, you know? So that's why we're doing it, it's no big deal. And it's advertised for the board.
All right, any questions? All right, we'll go to item B, sidewalk escrow release number 1 for Lennar, Bennett's Court.
Tennis Court is looking for a site escrow release in the amount of $814,128.77. And there is a recommendation from the engineer in your council packets to approve that. That would leave remaining escrow to be held of $274,309.20.
Is that the total amount that's held for the 18 months for the parking study that we talked about?
10%, I don't know, Chad's here.
No, the 18 months will be held as a maintenance bond. That'll be 15% of the total cost.
Okay,
Remaining amount is just the work that they haven't completed, or at least we're not satisfied with it being completed yet, plus 10% retainage of what has been.
okay, okay.
So Chad, it looks as though they're almost done.
They are mostly done. We do have some punch list items. Can't release the stormwater management until they terminate their permit through DEP. ADA ramps, I still need to be satisfied with that. Make them do some water tests out there to make sure water is gonna drain where we want it to go. And a couple other paving improvements, landscaping, some things that have died that, need to be replanted at some point. But for the most part, the infrastructure's in. Sanitary sewer, we're not releasing that yet because they haven't provided us videos. Require them to video, give that to us, we haven't seen yet. Did pass pressure testing, so we're okay with that point. But yeah, it's mostly done.
Is there anything we have to take dedication on? They're keeping the roads, right?
Sanitary sewer.
Sanitary sewer, okay. You'll let us know when they're ready for that.
I will.
If there's no other questions on that, we'll go to item C, the 2025 proposed meeting dates.
The proposed meeting dates are in your packets. We're gonna have to move forward and advertise these in December. So any questions, comments? We didn't really kind of come to an agreement what we're gonna do in January 2025. Talked to some council members who were okay with just one meeting. But that's the decision for everybody.
Do we need to make a motion for that or?
It'll be on at the next meeting and
Oh.
advertise them. So if you guys are good with this and no comments, it'll look like this. We'll just take out the one question mark and we'll advertise it. At the next meeting, you'll make a motion to advertise them, and then we'll move forward.
I think overall, if I remember correctly, everyone was okay with one in January, and if we need to, if something comes up, we can always
They call special meeting.
call a special session, so, yep. But I think given the holidays and the tough budget cycle, I'm sure everyone's gonna wanna get away from Rich and I, so, especially me, so. um, All right. So if there's any other questions on the dates, please get with Jamie and then we can finalize that and we can advertise it. We're advertised at the same time as the budget,
Yeah,
at the same advertisement.
yeah, we'll just put it in the paper around the same time.
Do we get bulk discounts for multiple at the same time or? No. It's probably based on space in the paper, right? So.
I,
Keep them alive, come on.
yeah. My letter.
All right. If there's no question on the dates, we'll get to our action items, item 8. So first action item, motion to consider the sidewalk escrow release number 1 for Bennett's Court in the amount of $814,120.77. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Councilman Gerard, a second from Councilman Burns. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. Item B, motion to consider advertising ordinance number 557, enacting a rental inspection program in Hatfield Borough for a public hearing to be held on December 4th, 2024 at 7 PM in council chambers. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
A motion from Councilman Byrd, second from Councilwoman Presser. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. Item C, motion to consider payment request number 1 for the utility replacement project to KCB Construction, Inc. in the amount of $291,685.50. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion from Councilman Gerard, second from Councilwoman Cresser. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. All right, item 9, the bills. Are there any questions on the bills? All right, if there are no questions, can I get a motion to approve payment of the bills?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Gerard, second from Councilman Fagan. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Motion passes. I believe we are scheduled to have an executive session to discuss property, personnel. What's the third? Am I missing?
No, that's it.
That's it. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Cresser, second from Councilman Fagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.